Thank you, thank you, thank you. Uh, you know, I am sharing the screen now, and I'm going to go back to this format because I have quite a few links I want to share, and I've queued them up because sometimes when you go out, it's difficult to come back. Uh, oh, and I forgot this. I have so much on me. We have been doing a lot of work in the space of entrepreneurship and economic development. I work with several of our faculty members. Those faculty members include faculty members here in our Medgar Evers College as well as internationally. I work with, and the body of work that we have been working on is the future of work and entrepreneurship for the underserved. And so most of what I will talk to you about comes out of a lot of that work. The faculty that have worked with us is Professor Crump. He's our lead entrepreneurship faculty member. Professor Alicia Reed, who is the chair of chemistry and environmental sciences. Outside of Medgar Evers, we work very closely with Professor Kasata, who is at Kenyatta University. She has come to us. We've gone to her. We've made 3 trips to Kenya working in the studying of entrepreneurship and the underserved. We've also worked with our practitioner, Nia Rock, who is a community development specialist, and we've worked with Asavado. Professor Asavado is a PhD physicist, bringing some of the sciences into our work. And so, moderator, I want you to give me a 5-minute warning instead of a 2-minute warning so I can make sure to get most of my information out to you. Okay, so I'm gonna, in this brief little time, I will talk about access, equity, and its disparities. I'll talk about strategies for empowerment because there are disparities and those numbers are almost depressing. But I do want you to know we believe there's empowerment in entrepreneurship, there's empowerment in wealth growth, and we see a pathway to that. Collaboration and growth post COVID-19. Yes, the opportunities have gone away, but we believe post COVID-19, many opportunities are going to come. And then the call to mobilize Black women businesses. And let me tell you why we're focused on Black women's businesses. Black women businesses in the US are the fastest growing sector in entrepreneurship, bar none. And the reason being, you heard it earlier in one of the papers, discrimination is real. It continues among all sectors, and Black women have been there in the homes. They are responsible for the children that we have, and they have decided when they meet the glass ceiling, when they see that glass door, when they see the glass walls, they are busting out and they're starting their own businesses because they have the skills, they have the knowledge, and they're not been given the opportunity, and so they're going outside. So it's no wonder why it's the fastest growing sector. Now let me show you the data. You know, since 1960s, we've been in the civil rights movement, and we've been looking at the wealth disparities. This isn't my data. This data comes from the New York Times. And let me show you, that's why I wanted to cue it up because it takes time to go out and come back. That chart is showing you that in 1968, the median Black household wealth as a percentage of median white household wealth, it was higher than it was in 2016. That is the data. The Times have still not produced the condensing of the wealth gap between Blacks and whites in America. And I will tell you, this is not just an American problem. We have studied across the globe, in Russia, in Europe, in the Middle East. It is the same. There are tremendous wealth and income disparities. And so, and it's not just income in the US. It is also, let me go to my next piece of evidence. It is, sorry. It's in health, the health disparities. Black communities were essentially already sick long before coronavirus. Pandemic highlights were pre-existing conditions with healthcare and race. We have high incidence of diabetes. We have high incidence of obesity. We have high incidence of blood pressure. I will tell you, my own mother had blood pressure complications for over 50
Yes.
years and finally succumbed to it. And so
Yes,
in
even
our
better.
communities, we were sick already, and
Yes.
COVID came along and just made it worse for us. Okay, so if we've got the economic disparity, we've got the health disparity, and so when we look at what happened in social justice, you know, George, the death of George Foreman came after many, many other deaths, and we've seen it all over again and again and again. And this time, the difference was it wasn't just Black voices crying out. I myself didn't see the news from the US at first. I had one of my Indian colleagues to send me a WhatsApp of the video sharing with me the tragedy before I could even see it from American news. So the technology has flattened our ability to see the challenge. And in business, I think I have one. Yes, there it is. There is a higher incidence of Black businesses that have suffered in this pandemic than others. In the whites, only 17% of those businesses had to close down. Asians, 26 of those businesses had to close down. Hispanic, 32% of the businesses closed down, but African Americans, 41% of those businesses closed down, and many of them will not be opening up. Okay, so let me go back to my charts. I want to go now to everything is not doom and gloom. We do believe through entrepreneurship that you can start from wherever you are. Now, everybody can't start, but we need enough folks to start so that they can have businesses, be job creators in the communities that they serve. And I'm going to give you two examples. The first example, and I just want to make sure I have my time right, but the first example, let's see, let me get her up. Yes, yes, yes. This is a young lady who was in a family business. Her father was a pilot, and this is with the Western Bahamas as a Caribbean example. And many of our young people, if we have some on the line now, think that they go straight to the top. This young woman started as a baggage handler in her family business. She then became an inspector so she would know the problems and the issues in that family businesses. And then she went away to college. She studied and became a lawyer. But a direct quote from this young woman is, I could have taken this business as my family gave it to me on a platter, but I chose to come back from college and help the family take the business to the next level. It is now the largest Black-owned private airline in the world, and because there was a commitment by this young person, not to just look at the dollars, not just to look at somebody else and say it was somebody else's problem, but to say she, as a person, was going to help not just her family, but her community to get to the next level. That's what I'm talking about when I talk about Black business. Let me give you the next example. Some of you can say, well, I'm just a secretary or I'm a janitor and I can't do it. This woman, the first and only Black woman-owned business at Alexis, how did she do it? She was a secretary. She studied, she learned, she took the management courses that they allowed her to have. She got the training and the dealership experience. She learned and learned and learned for many years. And then she went out on her own, and guess what? She paid for that dealership in half of the time that everybody else take to pay for their dealership. That's drive, that's creativity. You can do it from wherever you are. So don't say you can't start the launch because you don't have any money or you don't, your family don't have any money. There are those who do it. You just have to have the persistence and drive. And so I wanted to go to, okay, so this is the challenge. I don't like to go out because sometimes it's hard to come back in. So there we go. All right. So I want to go to our next example. Once you start, then the growth process. You know, growing is a different kind of skill set than launching. You have to be able to work in many networks. You have to be able to leverage your abilities. So this example of our growth is what 12 Black women businesses that raised in excess of $1 million in venture capital, and the outreach was done by Goldman Sachs. If you look around, it's difficult to find any Black folks. You heard the earlier presentation with finance and angels and venture capitals. Most of us in our businesses, no matter how far we grow, do not get to that venture capitalist. But Goldman Sachs, you heard the presentation yesterday about Mark, not looking just for headhunters, but looking for heart hunters. Goldman Sachs, as a heart hunter, went looking for those Black women that they could help, because it often takes, at that level, more than capital. It takes a different network. It takes others supporting you, mentoring you, and giving you skills that you didn't get as a startup. And so I'm not going to go out to that one, but I'm going to talk to you a little about the last one, executing successful harvest strategies and serial entrepreneurship careers. Let me say why that's important. Many of us, once we do one business, we do the business and we're done. It is important in our communities where there's so few successful businesses. Most businesses that start fail. So when there's so few in the human capital that it takes to be a successful business, you need to create your business, have succession plan, and go on and create another business so we can have more successful businesses in those communities. And so in this particular example, the self-driving car startup, a Black woman CEO, well, that company was bought by Amazon for not $1 million, but for $1 billion. Now, she didn't just start there. She had networks of influence. She had managed thousands and thousands of people. She had built confidence that she could do a job in this new industry. You heard the question earlier about how can we develop algorithms where cars are driving each other safely. But someone had the confidence enough in this one Black woman to give her charge over $1 billion company. Now, let me move on to my next slide. I showed you that it's possible from wherever you are, from the startup to the growth, to the harvesting of the opportunity. Let's talk about collective community growth post-COVID-19, because the world that we're going to be living in post-COVID-19 is going to be very different from the world that we're living in now. I talk about blue ocean opportunities, and many of you who have studied in business know what I'm talking about. There are going to be significant opportunities in tech, finance, health, and some other careers. There are going to be jobs that we don't even know the names of those jobs now. There are going to be businesses that we don't even know where they are now. What I'm suggesting to you is don't just go to the comfortable and the familiar. Many of the businesses in our community, the 41% that closed down, is because they were lifestyle businesses and had a lot to do with face-to-face relationship, which is what COVID has really seriously impacted. But those businesses that were focused on virtual and tech and where there wasn't a necessity for the face-to-face engagement, those businesses can continue to thrive. Develop continuous mentors and mentees. I will tell you, colleagues, as I mentioned before in harvesting in the serial entrepreneur, those of us who know how to do it, we need to share with those who don't. These young people are looking to us for help. And many will say, well, I have one or two mentees. Most of us will have to take on more to lift up more. And we will also need to get other mentors to help mentor us so we can do more. So we need to do more mentoring and have more mentees. Here, colleagues, I want to say that we need to get used to being uncomfortable. We need to seek diverse sponsorship partnerships and networks that maybe are outside of our comfort zone. If you're going to run $1 billion company, most of the people in that company, many of the people in that company would have come from somewhere else or done something else. So you have to get used to networks that may not be the networks that you're familiar with. Join associations, develop plans where you visit other countries and other cultures so you understand how business works in those countries. The reason we took our students, we had some students that had never left the city of New York who went with us. And when they saw how the Kenyan students really worked on business and business ideas, it changed their worlds and their lives forever. And they don't have to go all the way to Kenya. They can go to another school and see the students working and how they work and the opportunity and understand the difference in wealth creation and job creation. So I encourage you to expand those networks. Many of our students think that, and they work hard. Some of our students work 6 and 7 years to get their first degree, and they think, oh, I've gotten my degree, I've made it. I'm here to tell you that the dynamics of the world is changing so fast. All of us, if we're going to be working, need to do lifetime learning, skills development, and relationships. It is not only the skills, but you have to develop new relationships because new activities are changing and the world is changing so fast. Leverage your teams. A lot you will hear about leadership. A lot you will hear about leadership, but leadership is negligible if you don't have the teams. So you have to leverage the teams to inspire, to motivate. Outreach. When I talked about the example of finding those 12 women who had venture capital, that wasn't the normal email or the normal looking in a directory. They did significant outreach to go to places to find those people. So if there's something you want, continue to do outreach that might not be the norm. And here my bullet says, give back, connect the vision of wealth. Many of our young people, at least the young people I serve, don't have a vision of wealth. You heard about the Brownsville story, one of the largest area of public housing in the country with a significant poverty rate. Many of those young people don't have a vision of what it looks like for wealth and how to create wealth. And so we have to connect with them and help them see that vision. And many of us think that business is only here in the U.S. I'm here to tell you business is global. That we had the U.S.-African trade agreement and it fell apart for a lot of different reasons. But now we have the U.S.-Kenya free trade agreement. A few weeks ago, they got hit by COVID-19 and they had to disband. But I recently heard that they are working again post their challenge, and they are still positive that they're going to get some good results from the Kenya trade agreement, which will mean there'll be a lot of opportunity to do trade in Kenya, and they plan to replicate that model all across the Sahara continent and recommit to unity and accountability. Here, I want to say many of you have not lived in segregation or are not old enough to have remembered segregation, but I have. I remember those Black businesses that were growing, and they grew because a lot of we had a barrier. We could not go places, and we supported those Black businesses. And when the times changed, many of them went away, but some of them are still here. So I want to say to recommit to unity, to support businesses, to support the community, and be accountable. I remember there was a time when and I'm dating myself, when your neighbor was accountable for you, even if you thought you were accountable for yourself. Some of that has gone away in our community, and our neighborhoods are not what they were before. I want to share this one slide. It talks about why we empower and improve equity for Black women-owned businesses. Number one, I mentioned it's the fastest growing sector. There is a list called the Nile list. It is one of many lists where they list virtual Black-owned businesses across the country. And so there is no longer an excuse to say, I would like to support a Black-owned business. I would like to support a woman-owned business, but I don't know where they are. Well, there are many, many places where you can find them. And so I come to you to my concluding slide. I come to you to my concluding slide. Discrimination is real. No excuses. It's real not just in our country. In our country, we talk about race, but there is class, and class discrimination is across the continent. And in the work that we have done in the past, we have shown where it doesn't matter where you look, there is income and wealth disparity. We at one time said that education would change everything. Well, you saw the data. wealth disparity has increased in spite of the increasing number of Black and brown students who have gotten education. So we believe if the jobs are not going to be there for them, and there is power in self-determination. There is power in entrepreneurship. Now, everybody can be an entrepreneur, but those that can make opportunities for those that can't. They can make access in the communities. You know, I haven't talked about the multiplier effect, but when I was growing up, and that's a long time ago, those dollars stayed in that community. Now, many of the entrepreneurs in the community are from somewhere else, and the dollars flow outside of the community, so they're not there for economic development. So we need more job creation in our communities. Leverage diversity, creativity, and capacity building. I'm going to give you one example of creativity. The mayor had a conference, a roundtable recently, talking about Black businesses, and they talked about the issues and the challenges. But one of the gentlemen there said, I don't want to hear all of that, because I know that Black folks and Black businesses are creatives. We had the Green Book where we had discrimination and segregation. And what was the Green Book? There was a book that could tell you where across the country you could go and get a room as a Black person. He said it's a modern day Airbnb. We just didn't have the technology, but we had the creativity to meet the needs, and that creativity is still there. We just need to add the technology on top of it so that we can have those businesses and those dollars and power in the community. The power of collaboration to launch, develop, and grow. If there's nothing else you remember that I said today, remember this: you can't do it alone. Those women that they found that with the venture capital, that their sponsor understood at that level they needed help to be successful in the growth phase. They may have been successful in the startup phase, but they needed help and collaboration to continue to grow. Now my call to action to you. And you see, I time myself, so I know it's my time to stop. My call to action to you: wherever you are, whatever you are, don't look at someone else. Look at what you can do. Matthew, who was a PhD mathematician and physicist who talked to us yesterday, said, explore, play, find your passion, work with it, and then create it. And you heard a mathematician, PhD, a physicist, who is also a jazz musician. So your day job and your night job could be different. Just find a place where you can make a contribution. And I'm going to end with Professor Dennis Fox. So inspired me. He was humble. He was caring. He thought about his students. He thought about his students first. I had several conversations with them. And his as what I am calling you to do: make a contribution. Help someone help themselves. COVID-19 accelerates the future, but the future is now. I believe, we believe, for business. Thank you, and enjoy the rest of the session.